You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome back into the channel. Another Destination Dynasty quick hit episode. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the feed. Hit me up in the comments with episodes that you may want to see in the future. And if you haven't already, ddfantasyfootball.com, you can get access to the Trinity Tracker, the War Tool, and the best Discord community out there to talk Dynasty strategy. Now, this is going to be a follow-up episode. I dropped a podcast talking about 2024 running back efficiency titled the 2024 Running Back Report. This is going to be a buy video talking about 5 players and a bonus that I am interested in buying based on their current market and their 2024 efficiency. So let's get right into it. Number 1, we have Miami running back Devon Achane. Now, this may seem like an obvious one, but I think there's some narrative out there that Achane kind of regressed. And I think to an extent that's true because the Dolphins offense as a whole regressed. But if you look at Achane's numbers, and what I do with this is I actually take a rush attempts and targets and use that to define opportunity. Then I look at everything on a per opportunity basis, filtering out by players that had less than 50 opportunities on the season. So out of 86, you will see the ranks for Devon Achane and all the other players coming up of that subset. And for last year, he finished 23rd overall in opportunities per game. Okay, so he could probably use more opportunity, but does he really need more opportunity? He finished as the RB6 overall, but if you look at what he did on a per opportunity basis, 6th in per opportunity, 5th in TD adjusted opportunity. So basically, even when you take out touchdowns, Devon Achane is a top 6 running back. You look at his target rate, also 6. So he is one of those players that if I had to bet could be elite and not have to pay quite the elite price. I know I'm paying the RB4 price, but I'm looking at a guy that I could say is doing everything to repeat what he's done the last 2 seasons, if not have a higher ceiling. It's him, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley are at the very, very top. But if you look at Achane and Gibbs, especially, the target rate has stayed consistent. So if I was looking to move a high-end first-round pick, this would be the running back that I would go after. I think Saquon's going to be just as expensive, and Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be more expensive, as is probably Ashton Genty or Bijan Robinson. You're going to have to use the 101 on Genty. So Achane is the number 1 buy based on his efficiency last season. Next up, we have Rachaad White. So Rachaad White, RB39 on Keep Trade Cut. He was 37th in opportunities per game last year. So you wish the opportunities were higher. But then you look at what he did with those opportunities. 10th in PPR points per opportunity, 8th when you remove touchdowns. So right there, when he's getting the opportunity, he's putting up RB1 numbers. 10th in target rate. So if you see that and you go, well, all I need is his opportunities to go up, fine. But in this case, all I really want is for them to remain the same. He's RB39, yet he finished RB22 on the season. Bucky Irving is better, but if you look at Bucky Irving and Rachaad White back to back in a lot of these metrics, he's the much more economical option to buy. I think there's a narrative out there that the Buccaneers may add a running back. Okay, it's possible. Every team could add a running back. There's also a narrative, was their run game good because Liam Cohen? I think that's a fair indictment on either one of these guys, either Bucky or Rachaad White in this case. But in that case, if I'm looking for bang for my buck production, a guy that's been pretty good in the past, and hopefully they just run it back with the same backfield, and if they do, Rachaad White is a pretty good value. Next up, we have Jerome Ford, RB45 on Keep Trade Cut. Again, opportunities per game, lower than you would want, 42nd in the league last year, but Nick Chubb was there. And I talked about this on the podcast. Nick Chubb was one of the worst running backs, if not the worst running back in the league. And if you adjust that for guys that got actual opportunity, he was awful. He's likely going to be gone. The Browns are absolutely going to add at least one running back. With all of that said, if you look at the other metrics for Jerome Ford, 16th in PPR points per opportunity, 4th when you remove touchdowns. So right there, some regression in the right direction for Jerome Ford potentially, especially as the Browns move away from Ken Dorsey and they go to what we would think would be a more balanced and better running attack in 2025. So right there, he's somebody that at RB45, I'm getting at worst a platoon back, a committee back with a rookie. Now, if they draft a running back in the second round, okay, I'm a little worried. But anything past that, I'm basically arguing that he is going to be the more bang for your buck value in the committee. Because let's say they take a running back in the third. People are going to look at Jerome Ford and the rest of that backfield and say, I'd rather just have the rookie. But in this case, he was still 8th in target rate. So he's showing that even if he's not getting the overall volume, he's somebody that's explosive and somebody that can get work in the receiving game. So the metrics for Jerome Ford, very good. I expect them to add a running back, but I still want to buy at his current price. And keep in mind with some of these guys, if they do even sniff competition, and we know in this case, they're probably going to, his price should come down. And right now, RB45, it's kind of crazy. You likely want to buy before it seems obvious that Nick Chubb's not going to be back, because then Ford will be harder to buy between free agency and the draft. But he's definitely one I'm intrigued on getting right now, especially if I can add in maybe a failed rookie or a rookie pick, maybe a trade back and get him thrown in. That's how I want to acquire him. Fourth up, we have Javonte Williams. He is a free agent. So even though I have the Broncos logo on there, he is a free agent. He's RB46 on Keep Trade Cut. Probably a guy you can get now. When he hits free agency, there'll be some excitement because his name will be in the news. But if you look at his metrics, he was 38th in opportunities per game. Now, the other numbers are not as impressive as some of the other players, right? 36th in PPR points per opportunity, 27th when you adjust for touchdowns. Now, the positive, he was 5th in target rate. I don't think people realize Javonte Williams had 70 targets last year. You wouldn't pencil him in as like one of the elite target earners at running back, but in 2024 he was. The other positive is the Broncos running game was broken last year, but Javonte Williams was the best running back by far on the Broncos. So it will be interesting to see how managers value him going into free agency. Does he get a decent contract? Does he sign somewhere where people are excited? Right now, his price doesn't reflect that, but I can definitely see because he was a second-round pick, because he's been a name in the past, people will gravitate towards him a little bit more if it looks like, oh, he might have a decent market in free agency. But for now, again, like Jerome Ford, I'm trying to acquire him creatively. I don't want to just go pay a second, but I want to see if I can move around, get a leverage trade where I get him thrown into a deal or swap him for an excess receiver or get him in a third quarterback package or something that goes towards what I want to do roster construction-wise and add him to my backfield platoon. Fifth up, we have Zack Moss. Now, people are going to go, wow, you want to buy Zack Moss? Okay, there's a caveat here. He had a serious neck injury. He was shut down for the season. There's a world where he doesn't come back, and that's fine. You probably can get him super cheap to where he's a throw-in. I've already heard some other pods talking about he's a cast-off. You can cut him. Legitimately, you can cut him, and that's something that I don't recommend cutting any of these running backs that could be on a 53-man roster. And you'll see the bonus that I'll talk about in just a second. A lot of people did cut him. If it wasn't for usage at the end of the year, he'd still be on waivers. But Zack Moss, 36th in opportunities per game. This was obviously before he got injured. Chase Brown came in, got a ton of the work. People expect the Bengals to draft a running back, and I think I do as well. At the same time, Zack Moss is RB62. He's being treated like he won't be in a backfield committee next year, let alone on a top 5 offense that both of the running backs, whether it was Moss or Brown, had elite usage this year. Passing game, he was 14th in target rate. So again, even though he's not getting all the work that he is getting is leaning towards the receiving game. He was 28th in both points per opportunity and points per opportunity adjusted for touchdowns. So right there, just bang for your buck. He's a better option than some of the others. And if you go back and listen to that pod, there were a lot of guys that got more opportunity and were terrible. And given how everything's just going to reset this offseason with the running back landscape, I think he's a guy you can definitely get thrown in for basically free. Last up, a bonus I wanted to highlight. This guy technically didn't qualify for the sample size, but Michael Carter came on at the end of the year. And the reason he didn't qualify is he only played 3 games. But if you take those 3 games, I know it's a small sample size, and Michael Carter is under contract for another year on the Cardinals, another team that is probably going to add a running back, which is why he's RB100. He's literally probably on waivers for a lot of people that are listening to this, especially if you're in a deeper league that you can employ the NERB on a 53 strategy and roster as many of those running backs as possible, given that you're likely going to know when to play them. If you look at Carter, he was pretty good, 26th in opportunities per game. Again, a small sample size. But then you look at his both PPR per opportunity and adjusted for touchdowns. He was 31st and 23rd, respectively, and 20th in target rate. Low-hanging fruit here. This is probably just a waiver pickup, but he's a guy that in 2023 graded out really good in these metrics. Now, he got cut, had to go back to a practice squad, and barely got opportunity. So I'm not talking about him being a world beater or is going to elevate himself into a much bigger role. In fact, he's probably going to be the RB3 going into the season, and that's okay. But the idea is if opportunity comes, which he's an injury away from maybe getting some passing work, and he's 2 injuries away from getting a couple starts like he did at the end of the year, boom, we've seen him when he gets opportunity, he's efficient with it. Maybe his career path just ends up being another Samaje Perine or Jerick McKinnon, Justice Hill, Ty Johnson. Newsflash, all of those guys actually grade pretty well in these metrics. It's just you can't ever project a bigger role. But I think for now, given that Michael Carter's still young, he's bounced around, I'm willing to give him another year, at least in the offseason, keeping him rostered on my teams. And he should be out there in a lot of leagues. So with that, these are the 6 running backs that I would buy based on the RB report. Again, if you haven't listened to that, go to the pod feed, DD Fantasy Football, the 2024 running back efficiency report. And as always, like and subscribe to the channel. Hit me up in the comments, and there'll be more videos like this coming very, very soon. I will sign off. Thank you again. Be chill.